Thank you so much for coming. So that was a rousing beginning to our day. So I know that you had a very successful premiere screening just recently. Maybe you want to just sort of say a little something about kind of your film journey so far. I mean, I'm going to hand it over for questions, and I hope you guys have good questions because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, and you guys got to hold up your end, but I know that you will. Okay.
Okay, thanks everyone. First off, I'd like to go ahead and invite Alex and Chris and Dana to come up in case they want to field any questions. So yeah, we did have our world premiere in Austin just on Friday. So I flew here this morning, and it's been a busy week to say the least. And it was really cool because in Austin we had Thor there, so that was exciting. But we've got our own Bay Area cast, so that's awesome too. And she mentioned the filmmaker's journey. It was really interesting how this all started. Is that I was an aspiring Tetris player. Nowhere as near as good as any of these folks, but I saw that Harry got the max out score in March. I think it was March or April of 2009. No, wait, Jonas says it's April 2009. And I had been playing Tetris for years and making films for years, and it never occurred to me, literally, to make a movie about Tetris. Until Harry got that max out score, and I suddenly just said, I have to meet this guy, I have to commemorate that achievement in some way, so I just wrote him a YouTube message, and here I am, 2.5 years later. So it just kind of snowballed. I kept meeting more and more people. Right up to the very last minute, literally I think like a month before the shoot, I contacted Dana because you posted your score pretty much just a few months before the shoot, right? Or maybe 6 months before. So yeah, I just kept, go ahead. I just kept meeting Tetris Masters and putting them in the movie and learning their story, and it was really great. So so I guess I could take a question if you want to ask anyone up here. Just shoot.
Well, first of all, Tetris players, everybody here must have played Tetris, right? Everybody? Show of hands. Is there anybody who has never played Tetris before? Never.
That's cruel.
Show yourself.
I mean, I think that probably the big thing is, did you learn any major tips that you can pass on to the rest of us? Can you share any Tetris playing secrets?
Oh, I think they are throughout the movie. For me,
both buttons.
That's key. That's actually one of the first steps. I mean, I thought so. Dana achieved an amazing score, better than I ever have as a one-button player. So that was scary. When you meet someone who's that much better than you, and they're sort of playing with one arm tied behind their back, it's very humbling. Trust me. So, but yeah, I mean, really, this film is an autobiography for me because I am just a Tetris nerd, and I wanted to get better. And so what you're seeing on the screen is just me learning how to play better. So yeah, it's all over the film. But there's a lot to it. There's really no limit. And actually, I'd like to congratulate Alex. He actually, in the movie, you see Harry and Jonas go up against each other. This year, just 2 weeks ago, Alex took on Jonas in the final. So he upped his game and made it to the finals. You can learn, or what amazing amount of study and things that you can apply to get better at the game. It's just, it really has no ceiling how good you can get, really. So.
Also this year at the tournament, they had a Classic NES Tetris as well as PlayStation 3 Tetris, and Alex also qualified for and came in second in the PlayStation 3 team tournament. So he actually had second place on more than one type of Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris Renaissance man here. And it's a big difference between the modern PlayStation type game and the Nintendo game. It's almost two totally different things, so that's tough to do. All right, so any questions? You, sir?
So what would you guys say is the biggest difference between just a regular, a really good but casual player and then like the Tetris Masters? There's some kind of step function where something clicks, and then, what would that clicking be?
First and foremost, not panicking. I think that's the most common reaction, is to get flustered, and you have to just accept whatever you get and deal with it and not panic. And I think people even sense the panic on the screen, and I hear people kind of gasp and stuff at certain points when the thing's high, but you have to realize the players aren't panicking, because if they did, they would never even be able to let it stack up that high. They'd be dead already. So that's the interesting, you have to be cold as ice. That's really true.
I think there's a big distinction between people that can play level 19 and people that cannot. That's like, would you guys say
that's true?
Like, you can be good, like pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like most casual players who have a knack for that sort of thing could get good up to 18, but then at 19, you literally have to know exactly what you're going to do with the piece before it even pops out. I try to explain that in the movie. I mean, it's instant recognition, hundreds of pieces in a row in order to survive. If you ever miss one piece, it usually is just over. So it's that sort of brutality that most people don't want to even deal with, or it just doesn't seem fun. But it's odd individuals like us who will take that on.
So the movie is great. Like, besides liking Tetris, the documentary, the stories that you told, it's great. Like, I got really into it. I want to play Tetris again. I love the stories. I'm going away with some awesome feelings about life. And I was just curious about your intention as a filmmaker for this movie. And I was sort of comparing it to King of Kong.
Okay.
A little bit, but I like your stories better.
Oh,
I'm
good.
just curious about your intentions.
Well, I've learned to. Oh, okay. She said she liked the film and what was the intention of the filmmaker. And you brought up King of Kong, and you said you liked the stories here a little bit better. I think that, this is shaky ground for me, because I don't want to speculate too much on what went on with King of Kong. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that movie and its authenticity and stuff, and I think that's all interesting. And that's something you get into with documentary is it's never totally real. There's always plot devices and story structure that you sort of place on it to make it more entertaining. And you're kind of obligated. If you just showed raw reality, it's too boring, right? So I think there's a fine line, and I feel like what I showed in this movie is true. And it's just the knowledge I gained as I experienced it. For instance, with Thor, I really didn't know who this guy was. He really was a mystery, a dark horse who had these rumors surrounding him because of the movie The Wizard, and because the Nintendo World Championships were such a big deal at the time for Nintendo fans, he already kind of has this level of fame, and people all have opinions about him in the video game world. So I'd heard so many people, in video game conventions and stuff had all these ideas about Thor, but really no one knew who he was. And it's exciting in the movie to find out that he's just a great guy. That's the amazing revelation. who is just a real sweetheart and who happens to have some baggage with his Tetris past. So that was just the truth. I mean, that's just what I found out making the movie. And it's really cool to, like I said, when you make a documentary, it's like you're watching the movie in slow motion for 2 years. And, then I get to just make this tidy little nugget that I could give to everybody. So that's really cool. In the back, the red shirt, maybe?
Yeah.
Red.
So I know that you hold titles in other games. I was just wondering what other game comes close for you players, like even close to Tetris. What game do you like almost as much?
Well, for competition, I guess fighting games like Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, that's the sort of stuff that I competed in. I was in a really big tournament, and they actually had Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario Brothers were the games of choice, which are great games because I think the best games for competition are sort of the games that everybody knows how to play, whether or not they're super good at it or just basic, starting out, everybody can play it, and universal games such as Tetris, Mario, Sonic. I like those games for competition.
There is no other game.
The only other game I tried to get really good at was Robotron, which is like a 1981 arcade game. Awesome game. Simply amazing, years and years ahead of its time. 2 joysticks, no one's good at it. If you are good at it, you look really awesome. So I like Robotron.
I'm a big arcade gamer, I think. So I play like anything of that ilk. I play Tetris and I play music games, like scrolling shooters, like like Raiden and those kind of games. And I kind of want to try to get into fighting games or something like that at some point, but I'm not really great at those. So I think the one game that I really truly excel at over all of them is definitely Tetris.
Golden Tee, does that count? Golden Tee.
Oh, Golden Tee. That's a very competitive game,
I think they have
Sports bars everywhere. I had a straight ahead glasses.
Yeah, did like the cameras and the crowds at all affect the performance like on the day of the tournament itself? Or like did that change the amount of pressure and focus?
Well, I mean, as seen, you can end up with a crappy board or crappy progression of pieces, and when that happens, I mean, it can be crappy, and if it happens in competition, you're kind of screwed. But also being nervous, and then being nervous like right down into your fingertips, I think is like stressful. And maybe in other formats, like it doesn't matter if you're nervous in your fingertips, but in Tetris it really matters. So yeah, I think that does matter.
Well, it's been a while since I've been in Tetris competition with a live stage crowd. I did it back in 1990, and you just kind of deal with it. Sometimes you can tell how well your other opponents are doing by what the crowd is saying, or if they're yelling encouragement, or they're sighing or something. Then you're like, okay, now it's my time to make my attack or whatever. And you can use that to your advantage sometimes. And I've done it a lot, and there are players who are better at dealing with the distractions on stage, and some people actually like feed off of it. Like I feed off of it. I feed off of the excitement. I like having a crowd around me and knowing that I'm being watched. It actually makes me play better. So that's just a personal thing, though. But you can't get nervous, and I guess it's just up to us to deal with it and do the best we can under pressure.
I tried to compete in the tournament 2 weeks ago, and I was just a mess. So I was incredibly nervous. I think I did the qualifying round that you see Dana and Alex do in the movie, and it was a joke. So just total nervousness. So
for me, last week, I don't know how I did it, because every time I was in the crowd, I was just freaking out. I was like, how am I in semifinals? How am I getting to finals? How am I getting how far I am? But every time I went up to the stage, plugged in my controller, plugged my headphones, and sat down and played, it was just me in the game. Like, nothing else really mattered. I just kind of calmed down, focused. It was just, I don't know, zen, right? I was there to do something, and that's what I was doing. And like, if I misdropped, it didn't really faze me. I just kind of cleaned it up. If people cheer or whatever, I just kind of zoned all that out and just focused on the game.
In the back.
In the movie when we first meet Thor, he mentions like some brain injury.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, he doesn't like to talk about it. And believe it or not, I've never heard the whole story. But I believe it was a car accident, and I think he was in a coma for a couple weeks, and that he pretty much fully recovered. One of the interesting stories that was in the movie for a long time was that he, at the time of the car wreck, had been training to be an ultimate fighter, or a mixed martial arts fighter, and had beefed up. He's almost my height. He's about 6'3", 6'4", and he had beefed up to about 250 pounds and was, practicing mixed martial arts for 10 hours a day. And he's the type of guy, if he decides he's going to get good at something, he will, And so it's a shame, because that would have been amazing if Thor would have actually gone on to be a famous mixed martial artist. Unfortunately, that horrible car wreck completely ruined his athletic career, and I don't really know the details of that accident.
Maybe one more question.
Okay, so one more, straight ahead.
I wondered how Thor felt about the movie. You saw it in Boston.
Yeah, he had seen it, and we hung out, and he said that he really liked it because he just thought it was honest. So he liked that, and he said it's a little embarrassing for him, but I think he has gotten so much attention because of that victory. And a lot of people don't realize, I mean, people recognize him, you know, and he sort of has this low ebb of fame throughout his life that he hasn't managed to really deal with. And I think maybe this movie would in some way help him kind of just put some closure on that whole, I mean, unfortunately it might lead to more fame, but I think for him it was a nice way to kind of just have a positive experience with Tetris, so I think he's really happy, yeah. So yeah, I think that's it for the Q&A, and thank you to SF DocFest for having me, and
spread the word because this film does play again, so check the program guides, tell your friends, you know, we want to get as many people to be able to see this film while it's here.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday night at 9:30.
You heard it. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.